Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And we're in the home stretch here on my Wes Anderson series, as I'm down to his four recent Roald Dahl short film adaptations, and we'll have a bonus episode in a few weeks after that with the Phoenician Scheme, which I'm very excited about. But I'm also excited to have my buddy Foster here to join me in this discussion. Foster, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Foster will be joining me for two of these Roald Dahl shorts, and we're going to be talking about the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. But for those who haven't tuned in before, we have three segments. We have coming attractions for the week of April 25th, which there's a bunch of stuff coming out the week of April 25th. And then we'll be talking about our feature film, which is a short film, but you get the point. And we have some recommendations for you. Now, yes, this is quite an interesting weekend because outside of just the new releases, they're re-releasing Star Wars Revenge of the Sith for its 20th anniversary, which hits me in a place because I was in seventh grade when that came out and had my social studies teacher come in and brag to us after he went to the midnight premiere and then came to work on Friday. And Happy Gilmore's getting re-released this weekend, which honestly I'm kind of tempted to go see that in a theater. I've watched that movie an insane amount of times. But there are a bunch of wide releases as well and some expanded releases this weekend. We do have The Accountant 2, or aka The Accountant Squared, which honestly I've been waiting 9 years for this. As I'm a big fan of the original movie The Accountant. And we're getting a new horror film based off of a beloved PlayStation game Until Dawn. But Foster and I are both leaning towards the two films that technically came out last week and limited release and are expanding this week. But Foster, what interests you about the Shrouds?
David Cronenberg, that's it. That's the only selling point I need. I mean, it's got a good cast. Like it's Vincent Cassel, it's Diane Kruger, and it's Guy Pearce. This is one that already actually got the chance to see, but had I not known anything about it, this would be my most anticipated, just because he's like a must-see director for me anytime he has something new.
Yeah, I'm a huge Cronenberg fan too. So to be frank, I didn't even watch the trailer. I didn't look up a synopsis or anything of this until yesterday. Because I'm just like, well, I'm sold. It's new
Mhm.
Cronenberg. I'm down. It does have a very interesting concept, and I was trying to figure out what movies my wife's going to go with me to go see next weekend. So I showed her all the trailers for what's coming out next weekend, which is why I watched the trailer for the Shrouds. But Vincent Cassel and Guy Pearson, I haven't seen Diane Kruger in a whole lot, I feel like recently. So I'm pretty
Mhm.
excited to see the three of them on screen as well. So this is a pro Cronenberg podcast here, show here. So yes, we are down for the Shrouds. The film that I'm most excited about is The Legend of Ochi, and I love a good fantasy movie. I love Willem Dafoe, um, putting on an accent and dressing up in armor to go chase down his daughter who ran off with a small ape monkey type creature who's absolutely adorable. Oh my god. And they're definitely little puppets, which is fantastic. And this trailer just charmed the hell out of me. My wife's like, is this a Wes Anderson movie? Because like the practical effects, this like the little puppetry and the colors and everything. This just seems like such a wondrous good time. I know A24 is in an interesting place right now, throwing a whole lot at the wall. And it seems like a lot of people have been pretty disappointed with some of their releases this year, but I'm all on the Legend of Ochi hype train here. So how about you, Foster? Is this one on your radar?
I definitely want to see it. I don't honestly know that much about it beyond the poster, and I think I've seen the trailer once or twice. But yeah, I mean, I want to see it. I'm honestly behind on a lot of movies, new releases this year, just because my job this year has been taking a lot of time out of my day, doing some new classes that I've never done before. But once it comes summertime, all bets are off. I'm going to be watching a lot of movies, hopefully this summer, catching up.
Foster's going to be like, I'm six down today. Just sitting there.
Yeah.
But this one definitely seems like a fun, wondrous, good time. So a lot of interesting things coming out this weekend, and that's not even scratching the surface with some of the limited releases and stuff like that. But oh, and there's that new Cheech and Chong documentary
Yeah.
coming out. So, which I'm excited about too, because they're a couple of fun guys. I'm gonna have a very busy weekend because the only movie that I've got actually seen that's coming out this weekend is On Swift Horses.
Oh,
So all bets are off. I'm gonna be trying to squeeze in 5 movies in 4 days. So we're gonna do it and we'll be successful. I'm unrelenting. But let's get into our feature film here. So I do have very limited background on the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. This indeed is directed by Wes Anderson. This came out in 2023 with this interesting release schedule of this came out and then each day the following Netflix released another one of these films. This apparently was not meant to be uh all separate short film releases. Wes
hmm.
Anderson wanted to make an anthology film, and Netflix is like, no, we're gonna win you that Oscar. And Wes Anderson didn't even show up to get his Oscar. Um apparently, well, you know, I don't know Wes Anderson, so I don't know the actual reason, but word on the street is he was mad, but he was also apparently working on the project. So could be both things. Both things could be true. But this
Yeah.
is just written by Wes Anderson. Nobody worked on the stories with him. No Roman Coppola to be seen. These are obviously adapted by from Roald Dahl stories. This premiered at the 80th Venice International Film Festival and did indeed win Best Live Action Short Film at the 96th Academy Awards, which, to be fair, I feel like this was like a no contest. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this was not gonna win. There was
Hmm.
like no way in hell this wasn't gonna win Best Live Action Short Film. And I 100% agree with it. But we'll get into my thoughts soon. But Foster, what are your general thoughts? And also maybe your experience with the story of Henry Sugar.
I have zero experience with the story other than the short. I honestly didn't even, had never even heard of it when
Well,
I
that
first
makes
saw
that
it.
easy.
Yeah,
So
I hadn't heard of any of the short stories in this like anthology, I guess. I love this. I love all of these shorts so much. I feel like there's different types of Wes Anderson fans or different types of movies of his that you might gravitate to more, like some of the more emotional ones, like Royal Tenenbaums or like Asteroid City with this sort of deeper existentialism. I honestly just really like this. I just love this sort of storybook simplicity of stuff like this or Fantastic Mr. Fox or I mean Grand Budapest to me is like the clear runaway number one of all of his movies, but like I love this so much. Um, I don't know if I like come away with super deep, meaningful takeaways, but for me personally, like I don't need that when I come out of a movie. I know there is stuff to pull from uh Benedict Cumberbatch's journey in this short for sure, but it's just such a great display of like production design, the way that the sets move in and out and transition between one set to another. Seeing like Ray Fiennes come back after Grand Budapest, Benedict Cumberbatch, Dev Patel, Ben Kingsley, Richard Ayoade. It's just like dream cast for reading Wes Anderson dialogue.
this film I fell in love with this the second this movie started playing. When I remember when I turned on my Netflix and turned this on, and it's just Ray Fiennes sitting there as Roald Dahl, and I'm just like sold. Like this is
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. And like he's sitting in that like little cottage thing. He's sitting
Yeah.
there doing his writing. And then you get into the story. And yes, this cast is incredible, which Ray Fiennes just channels that like aging British storyteller really well. Because like ostensibly, like Roald Dahl was not known for being like super warm and kind of like that. Just Ray Fiennes just has this presence about him, how he's telling this story, and then Ben Kingsley brings so much to this character that's like there's this sense of mystery. And then I love the dynamic with Dev Patel and Richard Ayoade, who and they're just like back and forth because like Dev Patel's like excited telling the story, and then it's just like, and then he just looked and he's just like the way that Richard Iode would just like look at the camera.
I mean, there's a specific moment I know exactly what you're talking about that's so funny where they're like walking and he like turns to the camera right after. It's so good.
His physicality is pitch perfect, and honestly, I'm super excited that he's going to be in the Phoenician scheme.
Hmm.
When I saw the trailer for that, but Benedict Cumberbatch just has this presence, and he just has an amazing voice. And if you're going to get a collection of people that are just going to be telling a story at us while engaging in the environment around them, he picked some really great choices between
Hmm.
Ray Fiennes and Benedict Cumberbatch. It's just the timbre in his voice and like just the deepness of it all. And this film is so quirky and fun. It's really channeling that like Georges Méliès old school style of production design where there's like layers of cutouts and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And it just feels like this film was ripped out of like the early 20th century. And which is also, I don't think this was done on purpose or anything, but it's also kind of meta and interesting that Ben Kingsley's in this,
Yeah, Hugo.
um, who played Georges Méliès. So it's just the production design. And there's one moment where, because actually watched this with a whole group of my friends last weekend. We went to go Top Golf and then went to Costco and got hot dogs and came back to my house. And I'm like, hey, do you want to watch the wonderful story of Henry Sugar? And my buddy Joe started freaking out because he has like a YouTube channel on animation.
Hmm.
When they had that little strip of stop motion
The little
going,
animal. Yeah.
yes. And he's just like, is that stop motion animation? I'm just like, just layers upon layers of intricacy to everything in this film from a technical standpoint, even to just like the charming obviousness of the little box that they're sitting on when they're supposed to be like floating
Yeah.
in air. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculously charming and fun. And how hard is it to make a film where you're literally just being talked at? Like that's
Mhm.
so like the antithesis of what film is, but there's something about how this is all put together that's just so charming and hilarious every time they're like, and I said, and I said this, and and that whole entire like back and forth with how
Mhm.
they're framing all the dialogue. And it is an interesting story. I guess my background with this, I read these stories. I didn't remember the other three, but I did like I've remembered Henry Sugar since middle school when I
Mhm.
read this in school. And I absolutely love this story. I'm a huge Roald Dahl fan. I have a whole bunch of his books. Um, and when I heard that they were actually making this, I'm like, what? And I heard it was Wes Anderson. I'm like, mind blown. Because also, nobody else should adapt any other Roald Dahl story after this than Wes Anderson, because between Fantastic Mr. Fox and these, it's perfect. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on who should be adapting his stories moving forward.
Yeah. I like about how the style that he did in Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is a stop motion movie, I feel like he carries that with him into the movies he does after. But like especially this, and I think it's such a good fit for him because like all his movies look unbelievable, but when you're doing a Roald Dahl story, there is zero need to aim for realism at all.
Yep.
Which like Asteroid City isn't necessarily aiming for realism, but it is more so than Henry Sugar, because like at least Asteroid City has to be like real people who are in a place, you know, whereas like Henry Sugar, you have the freedom to do that stuff with the sets. It's just like a pop-up book like come to life is the aesthetic of these shorts, and it's so fun. My one of my favorite ones is he's talking about the money he gets after gambling at the casino, and he has these giant like chocolate bar shaped monies that he's holding in front of him, and he's like, and then I placed it in my pocket, but he doesn't actually put it in his pocket because it's a big prop money, and he hands it to a person off screen who just grabs it like a prop man. I love that there's like prop men and makeup artists like just coming on the set and adjusting everything in real time. It's so cool. Do you have a favorite cast member of the group in here?
You know what? I think Richard Iodade steals the show and barely says anything. And
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most fun things about this. But I do think that, like, I don't think this would work without Benedict Cumberbatch
yeah.
anchoring this whole entire. film down for sure.
Yeah. I
Who's your
think
favorite?
I think Dev Patel, just because
Mhm,
he's more unexpected to me. Like Benedict
mhm.
Cumberbatch is probably my other favorite. It would probably be them two tied, but like Benedict Cumberbatch gives exactly the performance I would expect from him. And this is like, by the way, a perfect usage of Benedict Cumberbatch. As good as he is in stuff like Power of the Dog, I don't think it necessarily plays to his specific strengths as an actor as much as something even like a short like this does, because like I look at this or I look at Sherlock or like Imitation Game that allow him to be this like proper British man. Like, and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
exactly like what he is. This is what he offers. And I'm so happy that this short exists, if for no other reason than to
Mhm,
give him that vehicle. But Dev Patel is like so surprising in this because
mhm.
he's unbelievable just in general. And he does the fast dialogue with such musicality and like just the little micro expressions that he's able to slip in there as
Yeah,
he's like half narrating and half actually saying the dialogue and then turning whip back and forth the whole time. I don't know. It's so he's was like the biggest surprise to me when I first saw this a couple years ago.
absolutely. And I appreciate how some of them come in these other minor roles. Like
Yeah,
Ben
yeah,
Kingsley's the dealer, and he's like super
yeah,
intense. And Richard Iodate's that one yogi
yeah.
at the end of Ben Kingsley's journey. And like he has
Hmm.
like the giant beard and everything. And even Benedict Cumberbatch pops up as Henry's like confidant
Yeah.
character at the end. And it's just there's so many great elements of this story. And it's such an interesting story about somebody discovering a story, us hearing this story, and then him leveraging this story to change his own life and having this the rug completely ripped out from under him and him realizing like I need to do something different with my life. And I think that's a really moving moment when, like, we wish for these greater powers to be able to do something greater in our lives. And then that power help literally causes us to find our mortality because
Hmm.
he did all of this so that he can, win a bunch of money gambling. And then it tells him, hey, I'm going to die a lot sooner than I thought I was going to die. And
Hmm.
that completely changes his perspective. And he goes on this thing, raising all of this money. And it's such a wonderful little fable of a story that has a good
It's a
message of
wonderful
like,
story
it
of Henry
is
Sugar.
indeed a wonderful story of Henry Sugar. It's just such a charming story. And this is why this story has lasted with me since I was in middle school. Like what I was like 12, 13 maybe when I read
Hmm.
this. And for some reason, this specific story lasted all that time with me. And I think it's just the unexpected, like, you don't see where this is going. Like, do you like realize that, oh, this rich, bored British man finds a little story and it goes off on this whole entire tangent. And then somehow it's like, this seems like a fantastical story that I'm going to leverage to, make me some money. And then it turns into something where it's like this man made like he saved tons and tons of lives and made such a big
Hmm.
impact on the world. And it's heartwarming by the end. And it's just like it has hope for us that like we can make a difference in the world around us. And then just the framing narrative of Ray Fiennes just popping up there and just being like, and this was the story, and him like walking out of his charming little cottage that's totally just like a
Yeah.
fake little cutout behind him.
And
And
it's like one
just
room.
yeah, it just I could completely understand where people are like, oh, this is just so gimmicky and silly and stupid. But I feel bad for those people because this is ridiculously charming and fun. And I know there's people that do not like his style. Some of my friends specifically do not like his style and absolutely hate Wes Anderson. But I just feel like he completely understands what film can possibly be. And he continues to play around with it and explore with it. And I appreciate that about him. And this just feels like this amazing mixture of modern technology and old school sensibilities that just captures this charming story. And for 40 minutes, this is a pretty great time. So,
Mhm.
Do you have any other thoughts, Foster?
Just quick ones. I like the story within a story within a
Mm.
story within a story structure. It's so fun. It's just like it's weirdly stimulating because this can't be a background watch. You have to be locked in to really
Mm.
like follow the levels of the story. And I like how he does that throughout a lot of his movies. And then to what you were talking about the inspiring nature of the story at the end with Henry Sugar, it also is weirdly about the power of books. Like
Yeah,
like he learns this from a book, and obviously, the whole story is centered around or bookended with Roald Dahl, narrating it to you. So you
yeah.
are, in a sense, reading a book, and then you are watching a story about a man who reads a book and then changes his life, partly because of the book, and then partly because of, by the way, Ray Fiennes, another guy who plays a bunch of characters throughout these shorts and then comes in as the cop too. He's so good. Um, Yeah,
Yeah.
anyways, just a few random things in there. Yeah, I think these are great. I love these shorts. I think these shorts are like top tier Wes Anderson. I feel like if you're a fan of his, I don't understand why they don't even rank higher for most people. Maybe just because they're shorter, I understand, but like they're so good.
This one literally is in my top five Wes Anderson movies.
Oh, me
Like,
too.
this one in particular, because like I really like the other three too, but this one has a little bit more meat
Yeah.
on it. But like this and Asteroid City were fantastic rewatches for me because like I've watched Royal Tenenbaums so many times. I've
hmm
watched Life Aquatic so many times, and Grand Budapest is one of my favorite movies of all time. But like I've seen some of them a lot. I'm actually rewatching Fantastic Mr. Fox for my movie club this month for our animation episode. We're clever and fun. But I'm very excited for to rewatch, especially Asteroid City in this again and again into the future. And like
Yeah.
Criterion, I'm looking at you.
I know, I know.
Release this set, please. You'll have my money. I will even pay not during the 50% off sale
Oof.
to get this set. So there you go. I mean business. So there you go. But Foster, let's get into our recommendations. What would you like to recommend to everyone?
Okay, complete zag from what we were just talking about. I'm going to recommend Inland Empire. This is a David Lynch movie that I just saw in theaters actually because I assume because of David Lynch's death, they've been showing a lot of David Lynch movies in theaters near me in particular. So I saw Wild at Heart a couple weeks ago, and then shortly after I saw Inland Empire. Both pretty crazy movies. Inland
Mm.
Empire, one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. First of all, it's 3 hours long. It's David Lynch in his Eraserhead mode, so it's more just like series of images and stuff just coming at you, and you're just sort of sitting there like, okay, like I think I get what's going on. I'm not really sure. It's not like a straightforward narrative, beginning to end sort of structure. It really is like one of the most insane experiences I've had watching a movie, but that alone makes it so thrilling because he just so wildly disregards every standard movie convention you can think of that it becomes like this exciting sort of, I didn't know you could do that, as you're watching his movies because it's just so different in ways that are not obvious. Like there are these extended sequences where you're watching a sitcom in which there are people dressed up as rabbits, like Donnie Darko style rabbits, that just play out for many minutes, and you're like, what is this? But like somehow when you watch the whole movie, it just flows together. And so even if it doesn't always make literal narrative sense, it makes emotional sense in the way that he's able to convey this sort of abstract dream logic of his so seamlessly to you as you're watching. It's like sort of a magic trick that you're able to watch something as on paper incomprehensible as this movie, and yet it just flows. Laura Dern is also unbelievable. I don't think she had any idea what she was filming when she was making this, which makes it like all the more impressive because she's so good. Jeremy Irons is in this too, and he plays this like snobby director. She's an actress in the movie. So is Justin Theroux. But yeah, I don't know why. I just really gelled with this one. It's stuck with me. I liked it a lot.
It is on my list. and I'll be watching some new David Lynch films coming up. My wife was on a huge, like, she just binged all of the original Twin Peaks series when she was out of work, and now she's like, "Well, we're gonna watch the movie." And I'm like, "Well, we're gonna watch Lost Highway with it for my retrospective podcast." So excited to check out some more David Lynch films because one thing you could say about him, he truly was an auteur and challenged people with cinema, and that's pretty cool. Um, I have my three standard recommendations. So one, new release, Sinners. This is a masterpiece. This is like legitimately when I left the theater, I was like, this had to be one of the best films, if not the best film that I've watched in the past 5 years.
Oof.
I had that level of like I was blown away by what Ryan Coogler did with this movie. From a pure cinematic impact. Like 2019 was such an amazing year for film, and
Hmm.
then COVID happened, and then just completely disheveled the whole, well, everybody's lives in every way, but in the film industry, this is legitimately up there for me with like Doom Part 2 and Oppenheimer as like these are the films of the 2020s. So I was blown away. And this was one of the easiest 5 stars I gave a movie in like a long time. I was completely blown away by this. This does everything. There is a single scene in this movie that is one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen put in a movie. And it's about vampires on top of that, which is wild. And there's just so many amazing things about this. Is cast is stacked to the gills with talent. And the way that they use music and just the filmmaking and the fact that this was all shot on IMAX, the fact that Ryan Coogler could find any IMAX cameras that weren't taken by Christopher Nolan or James Cameron, good for him. Um, that there were even any left. So this was. I know this sounds like a lot of hyperbole, but like I mean it. I mean it. A week out, like this is. I can't stop thinking about this movie, and I'm if I didn't have so many other movies to go watch, I would be really tempted to go watch this again in theaters.
Yeah,
So,
Heath and Rowan have been. There's a little group chat with the franchise Paradiso people. Or they both have seen it twice already, I think, and they just keep talking about it. I still haven't seen it. I'm gonna try and see it today. This is again just me being behind, but yeah, I think I'm gonna try to see it today. You are convincing me.
and you ostensibly could go see it on the biggest IMAX
I know.
screen.
I was making a plan as you were talking. I was like, could I fit this into my day? I think I could.
Go try to find a seat
I
before they
know.
sell out because
Yeah.
this is tracking to be the highest grossing original film opening since COVID, which
Really?
is also very sad that like
Yeah.
it's tracking around $50 million opening. I'm like, and would beat No, which is really interesting. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so every other one was not an original idea, and that makes me really sad when I came to that realization. But anyways, so something off of my watch list was Here Comes the Navy. This is from 1934, starring James Cagney and George O'Brien. Like, I'm not saying this is like an all-time classic movie that stands the test of time. It's about, which is interesting because it is about Chesty, the guy that John Ford made his last film was a documentary about this guy. And I'm sitting and watching this movie. I'm like, wait a minute. I know this. And James Cagney is just so much fun in it. It has some really good like war footage and stuff like that. It's like an hour and 25 minutes. It's a nice lean film. I found it somewhere on the internet. And it's just a rousing good time. And like James Cagney's honestly worth just to watch. And then out of all of my movies that I've rewatched lately, I had to go with Akira, which I watched literally right after with my friends after we watched The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a huge anime fan, and I'm so tempted to go see Vampire Hunter D because they're re-releasing that in theaters. there's a collection of like Vampire Hunter D, Ghost in the Shell, Ninja Scroll, and Akira that are like these are the anime films that really define what anime can be. And this film is wild. Like
Mhm.
it goes so crazy. Foster, have you seen Akira?
No, I
It's
haven't.
well, it's a weird movie, but it is so cool. It's incredible the craft that went into this. Have you seen Chronicle?
Yes.
So did Josh Trank also saw Akira because
Okay. Yeah.
basically Chronicle is that.
Is it
um
similar to how Darren Aronofsky definitely watched Perfect Blue before making Black Swan?
I think it's even a little more
Even more?
obvious
Okay.
because like the whole like there's legitimately whole characters and whole storylines
Oh.
that are just like, oh, this is Akira, and except this is weirder.
Hmm.
Because just the crazy sci-fi fantasy elements that get injected in this, the whole world of Neo Tokyo is so cool. The way they animate light in this film is striking, and it's just this cool, like obviously they watched like Blade Runner and that whole like cyberpunk feel and
Hmm.
everything. It's just a absolute marvel of, and guess technically like this is based off of a, I think this is based off of a manga too, like Ghost in the Shell.
Hmm.
But it's just such a impressive film. And my buddy Joe has read a lot of the manga, so he was telling me some of the things about like where this story goes after this part of the story. But it's an amazing achievement in animation. And it's no wonder that so many directors have been circling trying to make a live action version of this. And also why Jordan Peele's like, yeah, I got that uh bike skid slide from Akira into my movie Nope.
Hmm.
Because this movie's cool. So, but those are my recommendations, and that's a wrap here on another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland. But Foster, thank you so much for coming on and talking movies with me.
Thank you again. See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Yes, Foster will be back for another one of these shorts in 2 weeks, and I'll be back next week with another one as well. But thank you all for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.